Listen, sometimes life feels like it's pressing its hands around your throat, trying to silence you, trying to make you bend, trying to turn your soul into something small. But there are people who refuse. They don't break. They don't bow. They don't let anyone rewrite who they are. This story is about one of those people. A native boy who life tried to crush over and over. But instead of falling apart, he became unshakable. And the truth is, his story might look a lot like yours. So stay with me, because what happens to him is something you were supposed to hear today. His name was Taya. He grew up far from the noise of cities in a valley where the wind carried the voices of his ancestors like whispers. Their stories were everywhere, in the trees, in the river, in the mountains that stood like old guardians watching over the land. But Taya didn't feel strong like the mountains. He didn't feel brave like the warriors in the old tales. He felt alone, different, misunderstood. His father had died when he was just a child, leaving behind a pair of moccasins and a promise he would grow into a man with a powerful spirit. His mother worked long hours, doing her best to keep their world together. Still, their home felt heavy with the kind of silence that hurts. At school, Taya was the quiet native kid everyone looked at but no one understood. His hair was long, because his mother told him their ancestors wore it as a sign of life and identity. His clothes weren't expensive. His traditions were mocked. Kids whispered things he pretended he didn't hear. Some days he ate alone. Some days he went home with bruises. But every day he carried something inside him, a fire he didn't know how to use yet. Interest. Everything changed one winter night. His grandfather, the last storyteller of their tribe, called him to the fire. The old man's hands were wrinkled like roots, and his eyes were sharp like they could see through time. "Taya," he said, "sit. I have something to tell you." The boy sat quietly, feeling the weight of the moment. His grandfather only shared stories when they mattered. The old man stared into the flames and said, "Storms don't choose the weak. They choose the ones with the strongest spirit, because those are the ones who can carry the fire through the darkness." Taya swallowed hard. He didn't feel strong. He didn't feel chosen. He just felt tired. His grandfather continued, "Courage isn't about not being hurt. Courage is about standing while you hurt. Courage is saying, 'I am still here,' even when the world tries to erase you." Taya lifted his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not as a kid, but as someone who had a destiny. That night, something inside him shifted. It didn't make life easier, but it planted a seed. The belief that maybe, just maybe, he was stronger than he thought. But life doesn't let you grow without testing you. And for Taya, that test came fast. A month later, during a school sports day, a group of older boys cornered him behind the gym. It was cold. Snowflakes drifted down silently, like the world itself was watching. One of the boys grabbed the necklace Taya wore, the one his mother had given him when things were at their hardest. A token of protection, a symbol of his people, a reminder that he wasn't alone. "What's this?" The boy laughed. "A magic charm? A costume?" He tugged it hard. The string snapped. Beads scattered across the frozen ground. Another shove, another laugh. More trash talk about his hair, his culture, his silence. Taya's heartbeat roared in his ears. His fists trembled. His jaw tightened. He could fight. He could scream. He could cry. But something wouldn't let him. The fire inside him, small but alive, rose to the surface. He looked directly at them and said, "You can push me. You can break my necklace, but you won't break me." The boys froze. Not because he yelled, not because he fought, but because he didn't give them the reaction they wanted. Courage, real courage, hits people differently. It exposes their weakness, reveals their insecurity. It makes them back down, and they did. One by one, they stepped away, silent, confused, shaken. Taya didn't win with fists. He won with spirit. He won with identity. He won with something the world couldn't take from him. Later that night, sitting alone on his porch, he picked up the broken beads from his pocket. He whispered to himself, "I don't break." And he meant it. For the first time ever. If you're still here, it's because something in this story speaks to you. So let's do something powerful. When this video ends, comment, "I refuse to break." Not for views, Not for the algorithm, but because speaking it, declaring it, makes it real. This channel is becoming a tribe, a place where people who carry scars also carry strength. And I want you in this tribe. Listen, Taya didn't win because the world was kind to him. He won because he decided he wasn't going to let pain shape the rest of his story. And you can make that decision too. You're not broken, you're becoming. Stay strong, stay grounded, stay unbreakable. Taya didn't know it yet, but that moment behind the school, the broken necklace, the snow under his feet, the trembling in his hands, was the beginning of something bigger. It was the exact moment a boy became a warrior. Not a warrior of violence, not a warrior of anger, but a warrior of identity, a warrior of spirit. For the next few weeks, something changed in him, not loudly, not dramatically, but slowly, like embers catching oxygen after being smothered for too long. He walked with his head a little higher. He spoke with a little more certainty. He looked people in the eyes instead of the ground, not because he stopped being afraid, but because he finally understood something his grandfather had tried to tell him. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving anyway. Still, courage doesn't protect you from life. Life will hit again just to see if you were serious. And it did. Winter faded. The snow melted into cold rivers running through the village, and with spring came the annual tribal gathering, a celebration of stories, dances, drums, and the passing down of traditions that kept their people alive for centuries. Taya loved the gathering. It felt like home. It was the one time he didn't feel like an outsider. The drums made his chest vibrate. The songs felt like memories he never lived. The elders' voices carried echoes of the past that felt like instructions for the future. This year, though, something unexpected happened. The tribal council announced a special event, a courage ceremony. Anyone between ages 12 and 16 could participate. The challenge was simple but symbolic. Walk alone to the peak of Iron Ridge before sunrise, sit in silence for an hour, and return with a stone chosen from the top. The stone wasn't what mattered. The silence was. The walk was. Facing the darkness before dawn was. It wasn't about proving strength to others. It was about proving something to yourself. Taya immediately felt called. He didn't know why, but he knew he had to try. His mother didn't like it at first. The trail was steep and the night was cold. But when she saw the determination in his eyes, the same eyes his father once had, she sighed and nodded. "Then go," she whispered. "But don't go alone." He frowned. "It's a solo ceremony. I'm not talking about people," she said. "Take your ancestors with you. Take your father with you. Take us with you. When you walk with blood that survived everything." Taya didn't respond. He didn't need to. He understood. That night he braided his hair carefully. He repaired the string of his broken necklace and wore it again. He packed only what he needed: a blanket, a small water bottle, and a pouch of cedar given to him by his grandfather. Before dawn, he stood outside as the sky shifted from black to deep blue. His grandfather approached slowly, leaning on his cane. He placed a hand on Taya's shoulder and whispered, "When the night speaks, listen. When fear rises, breathe. When silence comes, don't run. Walk, boy, walk with the spirit that refuses to break." Taya nodded and began the journey. The trail to Iron Ridge was narrow and rocky. Trees swayed, and wind whistled like voices hidden in the branches. Every sound felt louder when you were alone. Taya wasn't scared of animals. He wasn't scared of the cold. He was scared of his own thoughts. Because darkness has a way of making your fears louder. But he kept going, step after step, breath after breath. Halfway up, the wind grew stronger. Dead leaves blew across the path like spirits dancing in the dark. The temperature dropped. His fingers numbed. He wanted to turn back. His mind whispered lies. "You're not strong enough. You don't belong here. Others are braver than you. You're just the quiet kid with nothing to offer." But then, another voice rose inside him. Quiet, but familiar. "You don't break." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was steady, like a heartbeat. He kept climbing. When he reached the ridge, he realized something horrible. Fog. Thick, suffocating, blinding fog. He couldn't see the trail, couldn't see the peak, could barely see his own hands. And suddenly panic hit him hard. His chest tightened. His breathing sped up. His thoughts spiraled. What if he slipped? What if he got lost? What if he never made it back? He dropped to his knees, gripping the frozen ground. Tears stung his eyes, not from the cold, but from the pressure building inside him. "Why am I here?" he whispered. "Why did I think I could do this?" Silence answered him, but not empty silence. The kind of silence that listens. The kind of silence that holds you. The kind that waits. Taya closed his eyes, placed his hand over his necklace, and breathed. Then he remembered something, his grandfather's words. "When the night speaks, listen." So he did. He slowed his breathing. He felt the earth under him. He heard the wind, not as noise, but as guidance, and slowly, the panic eased. He whispered into the fog, "I'm not leaving. Not until I finish this." And with that, he stood up again. After what felt like hours, he reached the peak. The fog thinned, the sky lightened, and the first streak of sunrise broke through the clouds, painting the mountains in gold. Taya stood there, breathless, not because of the climb, but because of the realization hitting him. He made it. He didn't quit. He didn't run. He didn't break. For the first time in his life, he felt powerful. Not in a loud way, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that filled his chest with warmth. He chose a stone from the ground, a smooth, dark one that felt cold but solid. He closed his fingers around it and whispered, "Let this stone remind me who I am. A boy no longer bending, a spirit no longer shaking, a soul learning its strength." Walking down was easier. The sun rose, the fog lifted, the fear faded. When he reached the village, people looked at him differently, not because he completed the ceremony, but because he carried himself differently. And when his grandfather saw him, he smiled proudly and said, "You walked into darkness and came back with light." Taya looked at the stone in his hand and replied quietly, "I didn't break." His grandfather nodded. "Good. Now remember, this is only the beginning." If Taya's journey is speaking to you, then after this video, comment, "I'm still climbing." Because courage isn't proved on the mountaintop, it's proved on the way up. This community is becoming a family of warriors who rise together, and I want you right here with us. Listen, you don't discover your strength when life is easy. You discover it when the path is steep, dark, and lonely. But just like Taya, you're not walking alone. Your story, your scars, your ancestors, your faith, they walk with you. You're stronger than you think, and you're still climbing. Don't stop now. Taya thought the courage ceremony would be the end of his battles, but life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't hand you strength and then walk away. Life tests it, again and again, until it becomes part of who you are. After the ceremony, after the sunrise on Iron Ridge, after the powerful moment that made him feel like he finally understood himself, a new chapter began. A chapter that wasn't about surviving the outside world, but about facing the battles inside. And sometimes, those are the hardest ones. People in the village respected him more now. Kids whispered less. Even the adults, who always saw him as the quiet son of a quiet family, looked at him with new eyes, like they suddenly remembered his father's legacy living through him. But respect doesn't remove insecurity. Praise doesn't erase doubt. And Taya still carried something heavy in his chest, the fear that his courage was temporary. What if it was just one moment, one lucky climb, one emotional sunrise? What if he wasn't strong the next time life punched him? These questions followed him everywhere, to school, to meals, to his bed at night. And one day, life delivered another test, a different kind, a deeper one. Taya's mother had been working extra shifts for weeks. She came home tired, barely eating, falling asleep at the table. But she never complained. One night, Taya heard voices, his mother and his grandfather speaking quietly in the kitchen. He wasn't trying to listen, but one sentence froze him in place. "The doctor says it's getting worse." His heart stopped. His grandfather's voice, low and shaking slightly, replied, "Can you keep working?" "I don't have a choice," she whispered. "Bills don't stop. Life doesn't stop. And Taya, he needs stability." Taya pressed his back against the wall. His breath caught in his throat. He didn't fully understand what was wrong, but he understood enough. His mother was sick, and she was hiding it to protect him. The fear hit him harder than the fog on the mountain, harder than the boys behind the gym, harder than anything he'd faced so far, because this wasn't about him. This wasn't about bullies or courage ceremonies or self-doubt. This was about the one person who had sacrificed everything just to keep him standing, and he couldn't lose her. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. His mind replayed every moment with her. Her laugh, her tired eyes, her hands brushing the hair away from his face, the necklace she made for him, the soft hum of songs she sang when he was younger. At dawn, he left the house quietly and walked to the edge of the forest, the same place where his father once brought him. He sat under a cedar tree and let the weight crash over him. He cried, not out of weakness, Bilam, but because love makes you vulnerable in a way pain never could. He whispered into the wind, why her? Why now? How am I supposed to be strong for this? The trees didn't answer. The sky didn't move. But something inside him shifted when he remembered his grandfather's words. When silence comes, don't run. So he didn't. He sat there, letting the fear speak, letting the grief breathe, letting the truth settle. Then he did something he rarely allowed himself to do. He prayed. He didn't know if anyone was listening. He didn't know if prayer would fix anything. But in that moment, he needed hope more than pride. When he returned home, his mother was leaving for work. He saw the exhaustion in her steps, the small shake in her hands, the effort behind her smile. She touched his cheek gently. You okay? She asked. He swallowed. I will be. That answer surprised her. He wasn't the type to pretend. He wasn't the type to fake strength. But something about the ceremony, something about the climb, something about the fear he now carried had changed him. He wasn't just trying to be brave anymore. He had to be. For her, for himself, for the future waiting ahead of him. That night, Taya made a choice. He would help. He would step up. He would carry the weight with her. He found a part-time job cleaning the local community hall. He started cooking simple meals at home. He listened to his grandfather's stories more carefully than ever before. He gave up small comforts to save money. It wasn't easy, it wasn't fun. But courage isn't about comfort. Courage is about responsibility. Every time he wanted to quit, he said the same thing under his breath. I don't break. And every time he said it, it felt more real. One day, Taya's teacher announced a project. Tell a story from your culture that changed you. The class groaned. Taya froze. He hated speaking in front of people. His voice shook, his hands sweated. Words tangled in his mind. But something pushed him. Maybe it was the ceremony, maybe the mountain, maybe his mother's strength, maybe his own need to finally be seen. He chose to tell the story of Iron Ridge, the climb, the fear, the fog, the panic, the sunrise, the stone. The class was silent the entire time. Not bored silence, but the kind that only happens when someone speaks from their soul. When he finished, his teacher looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, Taya, that wasn't just a story. That was a testimony. For the first time, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel small, he didn't feel weak, he felt seen. He felt valued. He felt strong. Not because he proved anything, but because he shared who he really was. A week later, he came home to find his mother sitting at the table with a letter in her hands. She looked scared, more scared than he'd ever seen her. He rushed to her. What is it? She handed him the paper silently. His eyes moved across the words, heart pounding. Medical support approved. Treatment fully covered. He dropped into the chair, tears rolling down his face. Not from fear this time, but from relief so deep it felt like he could finally breathe again. His mother placed her hand over his and whispered, You've grown so much, Taya. Your strength, it kept me going. He looked at her and shook his head. No, you're the strong one. She smiled softly. Strength isn't a solo thing. We borrow it from each other. And in that moment, Taya realized the truth. Courage isn't something you build alone. Courage is something shared, something passed down, something multiplied. He wasn't unbreakable because he endured everything alone. He was unbreakable because he loved, because he cared, because he fought for others, because the people around him fought for him too. If you felt something during this part of the story, comment after the video. I'm still fighting, because strength isn't proven when everything is good. It's proven when everything is heavy and you keep going anyway. This channel is becoming a home for people who carry invisible battles, and I want you here with us. Listen, Taya's courage didn't come from perfection. It came from pain, from fear, from love, from responsibility. And that's where your courage will come from too. You're not weak because you're tired. You're not broken because you're scared. You're human, and you're becoming stronger every single day. Keep going, keep fighting, keep rising. Strength changes people, but not in the way most imagine. It doesn't make you louder. It doesn't make you intimidating. It doesn't make you perfect. Real strength makes you aware of your responsibility, aware of your purpose, aware of the people who need you standing. And for Taya, that awareness was about to pull him into the biggest turning point of his young life. After the school project, everything shifted. Kids who once ignored him now asked questions about his culture. Teachers who barely noticed him began treating him like someone with potential. People in the village said things like, "You're becoming a fine young man. You remind me of your father. Your spirit is strong, Taya." All of that felt strange, overwhelming, almost unreal, because for the first time in his life, people were looking up to him, and that scared him. Because deep down, he still felt like the quiet kid who didn't fit anywhere, the kid who once sat alone at lunch, the kid who cried under the cedar tree asking the sky for answers. But courage, once awakened, doesn't go back to sleep. One afternoon, as he walked home, he heard someone call his name. Taya. It was Elder Maruk, one of the oldest members of the tribe, a man who carried more stories than years, and whose words felt like they came from the earth itself. "Walk with me," Maruk said, leaning on his staff. They walked slowly along the riverbank. The sun glowed on the water, turning it into a path of light. Taya waited for the elder to speak first. He always did. After a long silence, Maruk said, "You think courage is something you found on a mountain?" Taya blinked, unsure how he knew. "But courage didn't come from the mountain," the elder continued. "It came from all the moments before it." Taya swallowed hard. "Then why did I feel so weak for so long?" Maruk stopped walking. He turned to him and touched the center of his chest. "Because strength grows in silence, and silence takes time." Taya looked down. "I'm scared I won't be strong enough for what comes next." Maruk smiled. Not a gentle smile, but the kind that holds truth in it. No one is ever ready. But courage doesn't mean having no fear. Courage means walking with fear and not letting it decide your path. Those words sank deep into him. Deeper than the mountain sunrise. Deeper than the ceremony. Deeper than anything he'd heard yet. As the days passed, something unexpected happened. People started coming to him for help. Kids from school, younger boys from the village, even shy girls who struggled with loneliness. They didn't want advice, they just wanted someone who listened. Someone who understood what it felt like to hurt quietly. Someone who lived through storms and didn't break. One boy in particular stood out, a small, quiet kid named Hakan. He followed Taya everywhere, but said almost nothing. One day Taya finally asked, "Why are you always with me?" Hakan looked at the ground and whispered, "Because you don't walk like you're scared anymore. I want to learn that." Taya froze. He had no idea anyone noticed. He had no idea his struggle was inspiring anyone. And in that moment, he realized something big. Courage isn't personal. It's contagious. People don't follow strength. They follow authenticity. They follow people who endure and grow. Then something happened that shook the entire village. One night, a wildfire broke out in the forest. Dry branches and strong winds turned a small spark into a roaring blaze. Flames climbed the trees like monsters made of fire. Smoke choked the sky. People rushed out of their homes. Children cried. Elders coughed. The wind pushed the fire closer to the edge of the village. Taya stood frozen for a moment. His heart pounded like a drum. The same panic he felt on Iron Ridge returned. For a second, he felt small again, weak, scared. But then he saw something. His mother helping an elder walk. His grandfather shouting directions. His teacher gathering children. Hakan crying alone near the fence. And something snapped in him. Fear stepped aside. Responsibility stepped forward. Taya ran toward Hakan, grabbed his hand and said, "You're safe with me, stay close." Hakan nodded through tears. Taya then helped move water buckets, carried supplies, guided younger kids, and followed every instruction from the adults working to control the fire. His grandfather watched him and whispered, "That's the spirit of our people." The fire eventually stopped after hours of effort, neighbors working together, firefighters joining, prayers whispered through tears. At the end of the night, when exhaustion filled the air, Taya realized something. He didn't collapse. He didn't freeze. He didn't break. He became who he was meant to be. The next morning, the village held a gathering to thank everyone who helped. People hugged, some cried, children clung to their families. Then one of the elders stepped forward and called out, "Taya." Everyone turned. Taya felt his stomach drop. He stepped forward slowly. The elder said, "Last night we witnessed something sacred, not just bravery, but leadership. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't boast, the kind that protects." He looked at Taya with deep respect. "You have the spirit of your father and the fire of your ancestors. We see you. We honor your courage." People nodded. Some clapped. Some smiled through tears. And for the first time ever, Taya didn't look at the ground. He accepted the words. He accepted the honor. He accepted himself. That night, as he lay on his bed, he whispered to himself, "I'm not pretending anymore. This is who I am. Not the scared boy behind the school. Not the kid doubting his strength. Not the shadow of everyone else. But a young man becoming something powerful. Something rooted, something grounded, something unbreakable." And as he drifted into sleep, he realized a truth many people never learn. Courage isn't something you prove once. It's something you become over time. If this part spoke to you, when the video ends, comment, "My courage is growing," because that's what this journey is. Not perfection, not fearlessness, but growth. And you're growing too, even if you don't see it yet. Listen, strength doesn't show up overnight. It forms in moments of fear. It grows when you choose to stand, even when your legs shake. It blossoms when someone else needs you and you step forward anyway. Just like Taya, you have a fire inside you. You just need to feed it, protect it, trust it. You're becoming stronger than you know, and your journey is far from over. The wildfire changed everything. Not just for the village, not just for the land, but for Taya's identity. He didn't walk the same after that night. His steps were grounded, purposeful, steady, because something powerful happens when you go through chaos, push past fear, and come out standing. You trust yourself in a way you never did before, but life wasn't done shaping him yet. Because courage, once awakened, doesn't just help you survive, it pulls you into your calling. A week after the fire, Taya was called to the tribal center. He thought it was about helping with cleanup. He'd been volunteering every day since. But when he walked inside, he saw the council elders sitting in a circle. Their expressions were calm, serious, determined. "Taya," one of them said, "we've been watching you." He froze, not in fear, but in disbelief. Another elder spoke. "You've shown strength when people needed you most. You've shown responsibility not only for yourself, but for others. You've shown a spirit we rarely see at your age." Taya swallowed hard. His heart pounded. Then came the words that shook him. "We want to train you as a youth leader of the tribe." He blinked. "Me?" "Yes." The elder nodded. "You carry the fire of your ancestors. And leadership is not about being the loudest. It's about being the most grounded." Taya couldn't breathe for a moment. He never imagined this. He never imagined anyone would trust him with something so huge, so meaningful, so sacred. He looked down and whispered, "I don't know if I'm ready." The eldest of the council leaned forward. "No one is born ready. Readiness is shaped by responsibility." Taya closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind his eyelids, he saw it all. The boys behind the school, the broken necklace, Iron Ridge, the fog, the sunrise, his mother's diagnosis, the wildfire, Hakan crying behind the fence, all the storms he survived, all the storms that shaped him. He opened his eyes and whispered, "I'll do it." And the council nodded with deep respect. His training didn't start with speeches or meetings. It started with silence. It started with discipline. It started with understanding the weight of his role. Elder Maruk became his mentor. Every morning before school, they walked the trail by the river. Every afternoon, they met under the cedar tree. Every evening, Taya reflected on what he learned. Maruk taught him 3 foundational truths. 1. A leader listens before he speaks. People follow those who understand them, not those who try to impress them. 2. A leader protects before he commands. Leadership is service. Leadership is sacrifice. Leadership is showing up when others can't. 3. A leader becomes what he wants others to become. You can't demand courage from others if you won't live courageously yourself. Taya wrote these words on a piece of bark and kept them in his pocket every day. Leadership training wasn't physical. It was emotional, mental, spiritual. One day, Marek sat across from him and asked, "What is courage, Taya?" Taya thought for a moment before answering, "Courage is refusing to break." Marek shook his head gently. "Partly, but there is more." "What else?" Taya asked. Maruk leaned forward. "Courage is also knowing when to bend." Taya frowned. "I thought bending was weakness." "No," Maruk replied. "Weakness is bending because you have no choice. Wisdom is bending because you choose to." He picked a small branch from the ground. He held it up. "Look." He bent it carefully. "It doesn't break. Because it knows how to move with the wind." He then broke a dry twig in his other hand. "But this one, too rigid, too proud, it snaps." He looked into Taya's eyes. "A courageous spirit isn't stiff. It's flexible, strong enough to endure, humble enough to adapt." This lesson hit Taya hard, because all his life he believed that strength meant being unshakable, unbending, untouchable. But now he realized something new. True courage is balance. Not too soft, not too hard, just right in the middle where wisdom lives. But there was one thing Taya didn't tell anyone. Not Marek, not the council, not even his mother. He was terrified of failing, not failing the tribe, but failing himself. What if he couldn't handle leadership? What if he disappointed the elders? What if he wasn't the boy they believed he was? This fear followed him everywhere, like a shadow that showed up even in the brightest moments. One day, Marek noticed the worry on his face. "You're carrying something heavy," he said. Taya hesitated. Then he finally admitted, "I'm scared I'm not enough." Marek let out a long breath. Then he said something that Taya would never forget. "You don't need to be enough for the world. You only need to be enough for the moment you are in." Taya felt those words hit deep, because that was his whole life. Moment by moment, storm by storm, step by step. He didn't climb the mountain with strength for the whole journey. He climbed it one breath at a time. He didn't survive fear with a lifetime of confidence. He survived it one heartbeat at a time. He didn't endure the wildfire by being a hero. He endured it by choosing to help, one small decision at a time. And he realized, maybe he was enough. Not because he was perfect, but because he kept going. As part of his training, the council scheduled a rising ceremony for him. It was private, sacred, a passage into becoming a protector of the tribe's youth. The ceremony took place at the foot of Iron Ridge, the same mountain where his courage was born. As the fire burned in front of him, Marek spoke. "Taya, you walked into fear and returned with strength. You stood in chaos and brought calm. You faced storms and did not break. Now you stand before us not as a boy, but as a young warrior." Taya swallowed, holding back emotion. "Tonight," Marek continued, "you take a new responsibility, not for glory, not for pride, but for love." A drumbeat echoed through the valley, slow, steady, ancient. Marek placed a hand on Taya's shoulder. "Repeat after me." Taya nodded. "I rise for those who cannot rise." Taya repeated it. "I protect those who cannot protect themselves." Taya repeated it. "I carry the fire of those who came before me." Taya repeated it. "And I refuse to break, not for myself, but for all who walk beside me." Taya repeated it with tears in his eyes. The elders stepped back. The fire crackled loudly, and just like that, Taya stepped into a new identity, a new purpose, a new chapter. When the ceremony was over, Marek whispered, "You're becoming exactly who you were meant to be." And in that moment, under the sky, surrounded by mountains and ancestors and people who believed in him, Taya finally believed it too. Not because he felt strong, but because he was done pretending to be weak. If this part hit your heart, when the video ends, comment, "I'm rising too," because you are. Whether you feel it or not, every struggle you survived is shaping you. Every breath you take in pain is growing you. Every step you refuse to quit is lifting you higher. Listen, becoming strong doesn't happen in a day. It happens in chapters, in storms, in tears. In small choices no one sees. Just like Taya, you're rising, you're changing, you're becoming something powerful. A version of yourself your past self would be proud of. Don't stop now. Your story is building towards something big. The rising ceremony marked a shift, not just in Taya's title, not just in how the tribe saw him, but in how he saw himself. He walked away from the fire that night feeling something he had never felt before. Peace. Not the quiet peace of being alone. Not the fragile peace of avoiding problems, but the grounded peace of someone who finally knows where he belongs. But as life always does, it was about to test that peace, because every story of courage ends with a choice, and Taya's final choice would determine the kind of man he would become. Weeks passed. The forest healed, the tribe rebuilt. Children laughed again. Morning drumming filled the air, but something else changed too. Taya's mother wasn't getting better. The treatment helped, but only slowed things down. It didn't stop the illness completely, and her body grew tired, weaker, slower. Taya saw it in the way she forced her smile, in how she tried to hide the pain, in how she reassured him with words her eyes didn't believe. One night, he found her sitting alone at the table, head in her hands. The weight she carried had finally broken through her strength. He approached quietly. "Mom?" She didn't look up. He sat beside her, placed his hand over hers, and whispered, "You don't have to carry all of this alone." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're just a boy, Taya. You shouldn't be worried about me." He shook his head. "No, I'm not just a boy anymore. I'm your son, and I'm here." She leaned into him and cried softly, not out of fear, but out of relief. In that moment, Taya understood something powerful. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone else lean on you. Over the next few weeks, Taya did everything he could. He cooked, he cleaned, he took Hakan under his wing. He attended leadership lessons. He helped elders gather firewood. He checked on neighbors. And every night, he checked on his mother. But responsibility has a price, a big one. One afternoon, he sat under the cedar tree, exhausted. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. The pressure, the grief, the expectations, it all sat heavy on his chest. When Marek approached, he didn't hide it. "I'm tired," Taya whispered. "I feel like I'm carrying too much." Maruk nodded knowingly. "You are carrying much, but you are not carrying it alone." Taya shook his head. "It feels like I am." Maruk sat beside him. "That is because you're learning a new truth. Courage is not infinite. Even warriors need rest." He tapped Taya's chest gently. "And strength grows only when you allow yourself to breathe." Taya exhaled slowly, deeply, and for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to feel the exhaustion fully, not as a sign of weakness, but as a sign of being human. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the mountains, soft drumming echoed through the village. Taya stepped outside, confused. People were gathering around the central fire pit. Children, elders, families, everyone. His grandfather waved him forward. "Taya, come." He approached slowly, unsure what was happening. Marek raised his staff. The drums stopped. Silence settled. "We gather tonight," Marek announced, "to honor a young warrior who has carried more than most adults ever will." Taya froze. The elder continued, "This boy, who once believed he was invisible, has become a protector of our people, a guide to our youth, a support to his mother, a rising leader." People murmured in agreement. Marek's voice grew louder. "He has carried grief with dignity, responsibility with humility, courage with truth." Then his grandfather stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "Taya," he whispered, "you remind us what our ancestors prayed we would never forget, that the strongest warriors rise from the quietest spirits." Taya felt his throat tighten, his eyes burn, his chest shake, and then something unexpected happened. His mother slowly walked toward him, weak but smiling. She placed a small object in his hand, a carved wooden pendant, handmade, sacred. She whispered, "This belonged to your father. He asked me to give it to you when you became a man." Taya's breath caught. His hands trembled. He looked at the pendant, remembering his father's laugh, his tall figure, his soft voice. He held the pendant against his heart, and his mother said, "You are a man now, Taya." The villagers nodded. Some cried, some smiled. Taya's entire world shifted in that moment. Not because of the pendant, not because of the recognition, but because he finally realized he wasn't becoming strong. He already was. A few days later, the elders asked Taya to do something important. Visit Iron Ridge again, Marek said. Not to prove anything, not for a ceremony, but to understand who you've become. Taya nodded. Before dawn, he wrapped himself in a blanket, packed water, and walked toward the mountain. This time he wasn't scared. This time he wasn't searching for courage. This time he wasn't fighting fear. He was meeting himself. The trail looked different now. Not as dangerous, not as intimidating. Because when you grow, the things that once terrified you shrink. Halfway up he paused, listened, felt the wind. It didn't sound like whispers anymore. It sounded like guidance. He reached the peak easily, sat where he sat before, closed his eyes, and then he spoke quietly to the sky, to the mountain, to the spirits that walked with him. I'm not broken. I'm not alone. And I'm not afraid of what comes next. The wind blew softly, almost like an answer. When he stood up, he felt it. Clarity, purpose, strength. He didn't pick up a stone this time. He didn't need one because the strength wasn't in the stone. It was in him. When he descended the mountain, the sunrise lit his path. He wasn't the same boy who had climbed it the first time, shaking, doubting, scared. He was steady, grounded, whole. When he reached the village, Hakan ran to him. Taya, are you okay? Taya smiled. I'm better than okay. Hakan nodded, eyes wide. I want to be strong like you. Taya knelt in front of him, put a gentle hand on his shoulder. You already are. Strength grows every time you choose not to break. Hakan smiled shyly, and in that moment, Taya understood his purpose, to pass on the courage that was once passed down to him. A chain of strength, a legacy of resilience, a lineage of unbreakable spirits. If this part touched you deeply, when the video ends, comment, I refuse to break. Let it be your declaration, your commitment, your turning point, your rising, even if you don't see it yet. Listen, Taya didn't become strong because life was easy. He became strong because life shaped him, because he chose to stand, because he refused to fall apart, because he leaned on love, tradition, and faith. Just like you, you're stronger than what tried to break you. You're bigger than what tried to silence you. You're becoming someone your future self will thank. Keep going, keep rising. Your courage is real, and your story is far from over. Taya returned from Iron Ridge with something no one could see but everyone could feel. A presence, a stillness, a kind of quiet power that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, doesn't demand attention, but commands respect simply by existing. People looked at him differently now, not because he was perfect, not because he was fearless, but because he had changed from the inside out. And when a person changes on the inside, their entire world responds. But Taya didn't know that the biggest moment of his life was still ahead. A moment not about survival, but about legacy. A few days after his return, Taya was summoned to the tribal center again. The same circle of elders sat waiting. The same fire crackled in the center. The same solemn atmosphere filled the room. But this time, it wasn't just the elders. People from the village were there too. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, youth. Taya's heart beat faster. He stepped inside quietly, unsure of what was happening. Elder Marek raised a hand. Taya, come forward. He walked slowly to the center of the circle, feeling every eye on him. Marek spoke. Your journey has taken you through storms that should have broken you. Yet here you stand, not broken, but shaped. Not weakened, but strengthened. The elder's eyes glistened with pride. You are no longer simply Taya. You represent something bigger, a reminder of who our people are. Another elder stepped forward. We have a tradition, one that is rare, one that is sacred. Taya's breath caught. We appoint a young keeper, a guardian who carries the stories, courage, and wisdom of our ancestors to the next generation. The room went silent. Marek lifted a carved wooden staff, its surface marked with symbols older than memory itself. Taya, if you choose it, you will become the next young keeper of the tribe. He froze. Hakan gasped quietly behind him. His mother covered her mouth. His grandfather wiped a tear. Taya's mind raced. Me, a keeper, a guardian of stories, a leader of youth. He didn't feel worthy. He didn't feel ready. He didn't feel big enough for the title. But then something rose inside him. Not pride, not excitement, purpose. He looked around the room, at the kids who needed guidance, at the elders who preserved their people's spirit, at his mother who fought every day, at his grandfather who believed in him since the beginning. And he understood. This wasn't about being ready. This was about being willing. He stepped forward. I accept. Gasps, smiles, tears. Marek lowered the staff onto Taya's shoulders. Then let it be known, from this day forward, you are Taya, keeper of courage. The people erupted in cheers, clapping, chanting his name. And for the first time in his life, Taya didn't look away. He stood tall. He stood proud. He stood in his calling. The role wasn't symbolic. It was real, heavy, sacred. As the young keeper, Taya guided younger kids through their struggles, helped elders with traditions, rituals, and teachings, collected stories passed down by the oldest members of the tribe, led courage walks for the youth, encouraged unity, culture, and strength. And something incredible happened. Kids who were once afraid started opening up. Boys who felt invisible started finding their voice. Girls who felt alone started sharing their stories. The village youth began to grow closer, not because they were forced to, but because someone finally made them feel seen. Taya became the bridge between generations, the one who carried the fire forward. And the elders watched him with pride, knowing they had chosen right. But while Taya grew into his role, his mother's health continued to shift unpredictably. Some days she was strong, some days she was weak, but she always smiled when she saw him. One evening she called him into her room. Taya, sit with me. He sat beside her, holding her hand. She reached under her pillow and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in deerskin. This is for you. Inside was a cloth embroidered with symbols he recognized from their tribe's oldest stories. Symbols of protection, strength, unity, and destiny. It belonged to your grandmother, she whispered. She was fierce. She protected this family through impossible times, and now, I'm giving it to you. Taya felt tears building. Why me? She smiled, weak but warm. Because you've become what she prayed our family would always be. He lowered his head. I'm scared to lose you. She squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Taya. But even when my body feels weak, my spirit is strong. And you give me strength every single day. He held her tightly, letting the tears fall freely. In that moment, he realized something. Courage isn't loud. Courage is love. Courage is care. Courage is showing up for the people who matter. And he was doing exactly that. One of Taya's new responsibilities was leading youth gatherings. They met every week around the fire, sharing fears, dreams, struggles. One night, the group was larger than ever. Kids who once hid in the shadows were now sitting close to the flames, ready to speak. Hakan tugged Taya's sleeve. Can I tell my story tonight? Taya smiled. Of course. Hakan stepped forward, shaking but brave. I used to think I wasn't good enough, he began. I used to think I was weak. But then I watched Taya. I saw him climb the mountain. I saw him during the fire. I saw him help everyone even when he was hurting. He paused, voice cracking. And I realized that if he could be strong, maybe I could try too. The group fell silent. Hakan continued. Taya taught me something important. You don't need to be fearless to have courage. You just need to refuse to break. Taya felt tears sting his eyes. He hadn't realized his journey had become a mirror, one that reflected strength into others. Weeks later, Marek approached Taya. There is one more place you must visit, he said. Not Iron Ridge, not the river. The place where your father prayed. Taya's heart tightened. Marek led him deep into the forest, to a clearing lit by sunlight breaking through the canopy. A circle of stones surrounded a flat boulder carved with tribal symbols. This is where he came when he needed guidance, Marek said. This is where he spoke to the Creator, where he found clarity, where he dreamed of the man you'd become. Taya knelt in front of the stone. Tears fell, not from sadness, but from connection, from understanding, from legacy. He placed his father's pendant on the stone, touched it gently, and whispered, "I hope I'm making you proud." A breeze swept through the clearing, warm and soft, almost like an embrace. And in that moment, Taya felt something he had longed for his whole life. Peace with his father's absence, peace with his own journey, peace with his destiny. As he walked back to the village, Taya finally understood the full truth. He didn't refuse to break because he was strong. He became strong because he refused to break. Every hardship shaped him. Every storm carved him. Every moment of fear refined him. He wasn't a boy anymore. He wasn't even just a keeper. He was something bigger. A living symbol of resilience. A protector of stories. A guardian of courage. And his journey had only begun. If this part hit your soul, when the video ends, comment, "I carry the fire too." Because you do. You've survived things that should have broken you. And yet here you are. Still rising. Still breathing. Still becoming. Listen, courage doesn't look like perfection. It looks like trying. It looks like showing up. It looks like choosing hope even when fear screams louder. Just like Taya, you carry a fire inside you. One that life couldn't put out. One that storms couldn't drown. One that darkness couldn't silence. You're stronger than you think. You're further than you realize, and your story is still being written. Don't break, rise, listen. Before you go, hear me for a second. If this story hit you, it's because there's a fire inside you that never died, no matter what tried to break you. You didn't watch this by accident. You're here because your story isn't finished yet. So do this now. Subscribe to the channel. This isn't just a channel, and it's a tribe. A family of people rising from storms and becoming stronger every day, like this video. It helps this message reach someone who's breaking in silence right now. Share it with one person who needs to remember their strength. And before you leave, watch the next video I'm recommending. If this one lit something inside you, the next one will take you even deeper. Stay strong, stay grounded, and don't you ever break.